When you find yourself in this place where you always got to be hard, you always got to prove a point, you always have to, exert this masculine energy. Many times you probably don't even mean to be that way. It's a level of protection for you. It's a level of familiarity that you have and that you've had for so long.
Elevate with Monique. Elevate. Elevate with Monique.
What's up, ladies? Welcome back to another episode of Elect Elevation with your hostess, me, Mo. And I really love this topic that we are getting into today because it is talking about letting go of the hardness, that hard shell, and embracing soft girl energy. Now, the problem that I had, and I don't know about you, but I was programmed to think that being hard, it proved something. And really, what it did was it repelled everything that I wanted in my life. I remember growing up, I was surrounded by very strong and dominant women. And so I watched how they moved through life. I watched the way that they handled relationships. I watched the way that they ran their households. I even watched the way that they raised children, and myself included. And all I knew was being hard. As a matter of fact, at that time, I didn't even know that it was actually being hard. I just thought that it was a way of life. And so, of course, as a child, when we grow up in certain environments, we take on the behaviors, the mannerisms, the thought processes of those environments in which we are raised. But that doesn't always mean that that is what is suitable for us. I get it. Back in the day, women had to be tough. They had to be strong because in many cases, they were fighting for their voice. They were fighting for equal rights. They were fighting to be heard. And so there was a level of hardness that over time, it just happened to become the nature of the woman. And she became dominant. She became domineering in some cases. But that doesn't mean that in this day and age that serves us, especially as new information arises, new opportunities arise, right? And there are new rights for women that we no longer have to fight for, like our ancestors and our grandparents and our aunts and our uncles. And so what I started to realize is being in this hardness and always, having this dominant masculine persona, all I knew was to be hard because it was a level of protection. When you find yourself in this place where you always got to be hard, you always got to prove a point, you always have to, exert this masculine energy. Many times you probably don't even mean to be that way. It's a level of protection for you. It's a level of familiarity that you have and that you've had for so long. The other thing is most likely it's a learned behavior, but it's also an unattractive behavior and mannerism. If you think about seeing the image of a woman who is fluid and flowing and in her feminine energy versus a woman she could be very beautiful, but that doesn't mean that she is feminine in her energy and the way in which she moves. And to be honest with you, I find it very unattractive to operate from this masculine energy and make things happen. Also, what I would say is when I operated from an unhealed inner child state, there was that need to protect, like I mentioned before. And because there was that need to protect and it didn't, I had to find ways to make sure that my voice was heard. I didn't even understand how it was pulling away from just the feminine and soft side that I didn't even know was in there. I didn't even know that she existed, to be honest with you. And so I removed the opportunity to be vulnerable. When you operate from a place of being hard all the time and having to, um, you know, be dominant and be this strong person all the time, you rob yourself from the opportunity to be vulnerable. And honestly, the little girl inside of me was the first time I actually experienced vulnerability when I met her, when I saw her. I talked in another video about how she was standing in the field and she was crying and she was irate and she was vulnerable. She was allowing herself to be seen in this state of vulnerability. Vulnerability, sis, does not mean weakness. It does not mean that you are weak because you are vulnerable. It means that you are open. It means that you are willing to expose an area that is not covered. You are uncovering something for people to see or for yourself to see. And that is what that little girl did for me when I saw her in that field. So remember that when you're operating from that space, it robs you from the opportunity to be vulnerable. And don't be scared of vulnerability, sis. It is a beautiful thing. I promise you. The other thing is when you operate from this space, it actually repels, right? It repels. Being hard repels. When you're a lady, when you're a woman and you're hard, you kind of repel the things around you. Whereas when you're soft and you're operating in your femininity, it attracts. You attract things to you. If you ever saw, what just came to my head was Roger Rabbit, right? And forgive me because I don't know the characters' names, but the lady, the woman who was in the movie, I mean, she was just, oh my gosh, everything was alluring about her because of the way she flowed, the way she moved. And yes, there is a level of taking advantage of that if you don't know how to use that power and that energy in a positive way. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about moving from this hard masculine energy to moving into more of a feminine energy that will attract the things that you want. And the little girl in me helped me to understand how important that was. And you might say, well, how did she do that? She's a little girl and you're talking about healing her. But when you heal that version and you connect with that version of yourself, one, you're able to be more vulnerable because you practice it. But then two, you also are able to you're able to flow, because when you're going through healing and connection, you don't have all the answers. You don't know all the things, right? You are able to just flow with the energy that you have been given. So what are we going to do? We are going to start positioning ourselves to attract what we want, not putting ourselves in positions to repel the very thing that we want, but attract the things that we want. We also need to unlearn certain behaviors. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. We need to unlearn certain behaviors. I had to unlearn all of the hardness that I had picked up over the years and was operating in order to learn new information. And in order for new information to find me, I had to be willing to unlearn those behaviors. I had to be willing to set that aside so that I could attract the information that was going to teach me how to be more soft, because I didn't know how to do that. And it's funny because people would look at me and they would think, Monique, you always, looked like a lady. I've gotten that so much in my life. And while that's true, and I think this is true for a lot of women, looking like a lady and acting like a lady are two very different things. I did not act like a lady. I just, in my mind, I was a G. I was a thug. And let me be very clear, that part of me is still in there, but I don't operate on a consistent basis from that energy. The other thing that we are going to do is we are going to tap into our inner world by visualizing what softness looked like. When I first started wanting to learn how to be more soft, I had to visualize that version of myself, because the only version of myself that I saw was the hardness, the way that I had moved through my life all that time. That was all that I knew. And so I had to start visualizing what I looked like. What did I dress like? What did I sound like? What did I smell like as I was elevating the softness of my persona and of my life? And so we are going to start doing that. And if you're already doing that, I want you to take it to the next level. Start embodying it, right? Moving in that energy. And then we're also going to spend time studying what feminine energy, what that really means. Because yes, there is a level of, moving and being soft and all the things, but it's also a mindset. It's also a heart posture. And if you haven't had the time to spend with the inner child and there's still healing that needs to happen, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be very difficult for you to be vulnerable and open and willing. And you're going to feel like you need to protect this space versus learning how and learning what it means to be feminine and embody that energy. I do a lot of studying when it comes to this aspect because, again, like I told you, I didn't know. I had not seen that in my life. And so even now, I do a lot of studying of feminine energy and like, what does that mean inside of me? What things do I need to understand? It's real easy for me to go back to that protective mode. It's real easy for me to go back into the masculine part of me, but I don't want to. I love being in this soft girl era. I love being so connected to my inner child that we can be free and flowing. And I will also share that feminine energy is a place of creativity. It's a place of playfulness and, flirty. And when I say flirty, I don't mean like go and abuse that. I just mean just lightheartedness and sexy and empowered in such a way that it is absolutely deeply seated, not this pretend stuff that we see sometimes out here today. Real, true feminine energy. So we got an activity. I want you to take yourself on a solo date. I love this activity. I do it often. Take yourself on a solo date. And I want you to practice embodying softness. And when I say embodying softness, I'm not talking about just get dressed up and cute and put on a face. I am talking about the way in which you move, the way in which you converse with other people, the way that you carry yourself. I want you to embody the essence of softness, whatever that means to you. And I want you to observe how the world around you responds to you. You'd be amazed. The whole world starts to shift. It starts to change. It starts to attract itself to you when you operate from this space. Listen, sis, I know that the work that we are doing here, it can be scary. Sometimes it could be a little bit, embarrassing if you don't know where to start. And what I would say to you is if you haven't even started to connect with that little girl inside of you, or you don't know how connected you are to even embark on this information, I invite you to take the inner child connection assessment and identify where you are with that little girl inside, that playfulness, that joy, that creativity that is inside of you, so that you know where you're starting from, and let's continue this journey together. So find the link somewhere in this video, go ahead and take the assessment, and do me a favor, go ahead and hit this like button if this resonated with you, if this information and this content was exactly what you needed. And share it with a friend, share it with your sister, share it with someone else who would also benefit from this conversation. If you are returning to the channel, I want to say welcome back. Thank you so much for joining, and until we meet again, I will see you in the next video. Good luck. I love you.